Okay, let's give this a try.
Well, I guess if I was gonna hide a lost city, this might be the kind of godforsaken place I'd do it.
Okay, too bad.
I just hope Trinity hasn't beaten us to it.
Storm's getting closer. We have a couple hours at most.
Should be enough time.
Drop frames. Oh, shit. Okay. So I gotta find another one. Start benchmark. Um, that is okay. My upbringing, nice dream. I'm okay with that. Okay with that. Um, Games maximum 96. Yeah, but if only you could see what I see on my overall score, I can hit like 50 frames per second. Streaming it, no. You know what? That's fine. I was going through my Steam list. I was making a list of games that I want to play like on Saturdays. Pick one from there, really. One other thing I can do is hook up my Xbox. I think I have Rise of the Tomb Raider. If I do, I can always see if I can stream it that way. But for now, let's see what options we have. Yeah, it's even in my stream list. Let's see. You always do a choose your own adventure book. I do have a few of those. Dex is another cyberpunk one. And side scrolling open world RPG. What? No. What? For now, let's do a choose your own adventure one. Yeah. Okay. Curse of the Assassin. Oh, let's crank up that screen resolution. What's going on here? Oh. Why didn't you go full screen? Okay. Turn off the music here. Miscellaneous. Oh, restart book. Okay. Choose our difficult. And so we got classic. So true hardcore game book hero. We play the game adventures how it's meant to be played, where your fate rests on judgment, skill, and a bit of luck. Starting vitality is calculated by rolling 4 dice and adding the total to 24 for a minimum of 28 or maximum of 48. Fitness is calculated by rolling 1 die and adding number to 6, so you can either get a 7 or 12. And you start with 6 bookmarks, so use them sparingly. Or there's the adventure, which is more relaxed, makes things a little easier for you from the start while still retaining some challenge. Your vitality is automatically set to maximum of 48, and your fitness is set at 10, so out in the middle of what you can score. You also have unlimited bookmarks. Then there's casual. For the casual gamebook reader who wants to truly appreciate the story without the worry of limited bookmarks or the fate of the dice. You get unlimited bookmarks to use throughout the book, as well as these old school cheats, such as the back button. Move backwards to the previous page. Wrong direction, you can back up and choose another path. The free choice button. You can unlock all links, irrespective of whether they are available, so you can easily negotiate tricky parts of the story where you require certain items. Skip combat. And the heal me button. You're able to heal yourself at any time, so you will never run out of vitality. Um, you know what? We'll do adventurer. And realize it's not appearing. And so the assassin. Oh, So a name. Let's do my name. Okay. So you start your adventure with 48 vitality, measure of your health. If vitality reaches 0, you die, your adventure is over. Starting fitness is 10, and it represents how fit and agile you are. There will be key moments in the story and during battle where you will need to test your fitness. In adventurer mode, you have unlimited bookmarks. Use them whenever you want to be able to come back and try a different path. Let's start the adventure. '27. Abrilio. 776. Dawn years. What a difference a couple of years make. Think to yourself as you walk along the wide promenade leading from the ducal palace of Orlandes city into the city's heart. Once just a penniless adventurer, duped into a quest to save the life of the woman you love, only to discover her duplicity when it was almost too late. In defeating the usurper Eltane and the witch Kari, you saved not just your own life, but also that of the Archduke, the rest of the population of Orlandes city. Deprived of a charismatic leader, the army that was poised to invade the country from the north fell to infighting and gradually fragmented. Save for a few incursions by the most intelligent of the inhuman beasts that Eltane had amassed, that part of your life is well behind you. Since then, the country has seen relative peace. Although the rumors of war from Rema throughout the last year, along with the nasty business that took place in Alavia 18 months ago, which was then followed by the destruction of Quintos, have put the general populace, at least in Orlandes city, a little on edge. Despite his propensity for blunt, abrasive honesty, the Archduke was nevertheless extremely grateful to you for defeating Eltane, and offered you a place in the city guard. Reluctantly, you had to decline. Such a role as an enforcer of the law, while a noble enough profession, simply did not sit well with your natural desire for freedom and adventure. Disappointed, although understanding than you might have imagined, the Archduke proposed an alternative means of employing your talents. That of being a freelance working in the interests of the country, being sent on missions of national importance. Naturally, you jumped at the chance. Kismet then knocked you off your feet in the shape of Eleanor, the Archduke's youngest daughter, who was present at your victory over the would-be assassins and was mightily impressed by your heroism. Despite her privileged upbringing, her outgoing nature and natural friendliness had soon charmed you, and between your missions, the two of you almost became inseparable. It was she who helped improve your stance and footwork when wielding a sword, while in return you taught her about medicinal uses for wildflowers, the best places to pitch a camp. The courtiers and high-ranking guards looked on with vague amusement at your burgeoning relationship. For some years, they had been the focus of her attention. She demanding and begging them to teach her how to wield a sword and to relate to her their adventures beyond the walls of the city. The Archduke has shown himself to be a canny ruler. Your destinations have recently become less far-flung. Your time spent away from the city has decreased, allowing you more time with Eleanor. Although you miss the adventure and the open plains, you suppose that the time is approaching and you must put down the sword and take up more regular lucrative profession. After all, you have agreed in principle to support Eleanor in the manner to which she has become accustomed. You are unable to keep the silly grin from your face as you amble along, not seeing the beautiful architecture around you. Oblivious to the beautiful granite fountain carved in the shape of swans, with a beautiful mermaid sitting on top of it. People shake their heads as you pass. It is obvious your head is firmly in the wispy clouds that scud by overhead. And why shouldn't it be? For the Archduke's youngest daughter has consented, with some eagerness, to be your wife. What's more, the Archduke has not only permitted to your engagement, he is extremely pleased with it. Despite your humble background, you have shown yourself to be a true servant of Orlandus, and the Archduke is happy to entrust his youngest daughter, the apple of his eye, to you. In just a week's time, a masquerade ball will be held to announce to the whole world forthcoming marriage. For you, life simply couldn't be any better. A bell rings, shaking you from your reverie, drawing your mind back to the here and now. Your grin fades as the reality of everyday life pulls you back down to earth. A funeral procession is slowly walking by. The pall is carried by 4 men, while a handful of men and women slowly follow behind, their black clothes contrasting against the white of the walls of the buildings lining the street. Whoever he was, deceased had a few friends or family, it would seem. Passerby quickly scurry out of the way of the pallbearers, though their sedate pace is designed to allow ample time for anyone to move aside to pay their respects. Only when it is too late for you to move away do you realize that the pall's shadow has fallen across your feet and legs. It is considered bad luck in Orlandus for the shadow of the pall to fall upon you. Death, it is said, will soon follow. Directly behind the pallbearers and ahead of the mourners walk a priest of Vivere, as is the local custom. He rings a handbell desultorily as he walks, warning those ahead of the coming procession, encouraging them to move aside. As he reaches you, you politely call out to ask him the name of the deceased. This one was once known as Robo. He was a stout-hearted warrior and a member of my flock for over a year. Your heart beats faster in your chest as you hear the name. Your mouth suddenly dry. You ask if the priest knows where his Robo hailed from originally. He came from a small village some days' ride from the city, he tells you. I believe he said its name was Livis Verdis. For a second, it seems as though all the sound and color and sunlight departs the world, leaving only a gray void, while your heart ceases to beat in your chest. Then it all rushes back, leaving you feeling lightheaded. There cannot be a worse way to hear the death of your closest childhood friend. Your leaden feet slowly move forward, almost of their own violation, and you join yourself in the procession, following it into a small limestone chapel near the city's north wall, where the final sermon will be given. Even though it is yet mid-morning, the interior of the chapel is quite dark, save for the sputtering wax candles that hang in metal braziers, and the large stone chalice of vivir in the center that contains slow-burning wooden embers from a recent ceremony, which will help give it an unearthly orange glow. The silence inside is almost overbearing, every scuff of a mourner's shoe resonating seamlessly like a hammer strike on an anvil. The pallbearers deposit the coffin in front of the rickety lectern and leave, their work being done. Later, gravediggers who work in the huge necropolis beyond the northern wall will come to claim the wooden box and its contents. A draught surges intermittently through the doors, through which you entered. Beyond them lies the light and life of the outside world. Here, inside, lies only death, both of childhood and of friendship. The priest addresses the mourners in a croaky voice, telling them that Robol's death was a sad end to a promising life, but that a greater journey now lies ahead of him. His few words said, the priest descends again the creaking steps from the lectern and asks, in a less formal tone, that all those present remember Robol and how he touched their lives for a few minutes before departing. Your mind is drawn back to your childhood in Olivis Vertus. Your fascination with adventure and daring do goes back as far as you can remember. One of your earliest memories is playing with Robol, both pretending to be noble swordsmen vanquishing a mighty Organ. You remember swearing an oath with Robol that as soon as you were both old enough, you would leave the village and set out for fame and fortune, adventure and excitement, anything to avoid a life of picking grapes or olives. And so, when you both came of age, instead of following your respective fathers into their professions, you both took up swords and became adventurers for hire. Several of the other village youths, inspired by your courage, agreed to join you. And so, your adventuring party, Los Halcons de la Muerte, the Death Hawks, or de la Muerte, the Death Hawks, began to operate from the village. Although you were called into action several times over the next couple of years, nobly to fight the goblins of Kurin Badinac, neither fame nor fortune ever troubled you. Eventually, the party disbanded, and you all went your separate ways, occasionally bumping into each other. The last you heard, the birdie Esplandian had given up arms to become a farmer, marrying the beautiful healer Amatista. Gatito, the crafty, manipulative girl with a childlike voice, put her pernicious skills to use, providing work for guards in a dozen cities and towns across Orlandis as they tried unsuccessfully to track her. And Amandus, the annoying bard, now plies his trade in the southern villages, beguiling the townsfolk with whimsy and song. And now, here, in this hateful pine box, lies Robol, closest childhood friend, whom you have not thought in an age. Overwhelmed by irrational guilt, you feel that you must talk to someone here to remind yourself of Robol in life. You blink, your eyes become slowly accustomed to the darkness, and turn your attention outward in an attempt to rebalance yourself. Only two of the mourners remain, each seemingly somewhat hesitant to begin conversation with the other. The taller male figure lounges almost insolently against the stonework of a tall, fluted pillar. He is failing to mask his emotions, and his face betrays a great deal of anger. Standing opposite of him, his counterpart is undeniably female. Her black dress looks somewhat threadbare in places, and her eyes are red from crying. To the side, the priest is busying himself, filling out a registry entry in the vast leather-bound tome. Will you approach the man, or will you speak with the woman? Alternatively, you can approach the officiating priest. So here comes the fun part of choosing. Whoop. I always did love these books. Read tons of them in school. And yeah, the fact that you can get them on Steam, it's just, I love it. Um, hmm. Uh, let's see. But the woman was crying. Man showing anger. Let's speak to the woman. The flaxen-haired woman smiled sadly as you approach. Pay your respects, he asks. I'm sorry, I don't recognize you. I'm Colibri. I was to have been Robo's wife. She closes her eyes as her lower lip trembles as she fights to remain in control of her emotions. You politely look away, allowing her time to regain composure. In time, you see from your peripheral vision that she had managed to hold back her tears. and he mumbles some inconsequential, inconsequent. Yeah. Um, Inside, you feel hollow. You are speaking to the betrothed of your closest childhood friend, and yet before today, you did not even know she existed. She responds in turn, speaking in platitude. You are about to take your leave when she says something that shocks you. Robo was proud of how far you managed to go in the world. Your expression of surprise amuses Colibri. I know who you are. Robo was always talking about his childhood friend who grew up to be the savior of Orlandis. He was so pleased for you. Of course, fate had not been so kind to him as to you, but we were going to be married in the summer, move south to one of the coastal villages. He planned to learn to be a fisherman. She dabs at her eyes with a lace kerchief. There's a terrible joke of fate that his body be found washed up on the banks of the river. So he was murdered? You bluntly asked. Colibri nodded wearily. His body was found by dockworkers just yesterday. They say he had been badly beaten, where his body was dumped in the river. Once again, she struggles to regain composure, and you take your leave of this strong young woman. This is a lead you may wish to follow up in tracking down Robo's murderer. The Riverside District is notorious for street brawls and smuggling, but surely the authorities should be investigating a murder. Do you wish to talk to the angry looking man? Or you may decide to engage the officiating priest in conversation. If you're done talking, you also may leave. You know what? Let's see what the young man has to say. Okay, okay. So our offense is 3 out of 6, defense is 2 out of 6. We got 50 Pistatos. We have a healing potion. We have a leather jerkin and an Ehrlich. I'm guessing that's our weapon. Things that we know. Robo's body washed up in Riverside District. Okay. And this brings us back to the main screen. Gotcha. Yeah. Well, let's go talk to the angry-looking man. The man eyeballs you as you approach, but does not seem unwilling to talk. You ask him how he knew Robo, and the anger in his face dissipated. He was a true friend, he tells you. Robo helped me out of a problem I had with the law, helped set me straight. He leaned towards you conspiratorially and adds, I used to be a bit of a booze hound, you know. Robo helped me get back on my feet. He was a good man. It's a shame he was. Your ears pricked up at this. You may have forgotten him in your life, but it would be unthinkable to allow his death to go unavenged. You may ask the man for more details, at which point he becomes sullen. If I wasn't so much of a coward, I'd look into it myself, he growls. The damn city watch know what's going on. Just turn a blind eye. You ask how he's sure that Robal's death was murder. And he chuckles mirthlessly. I found his body, he tells you. Branded onto his chest was a symbol, one found on corpses across the city. It is an eagle, its wings unfurled, looking to the right with a human eye on its breast. That's all I know. He relapses back into silence, and you take your leave of him. This is bad news. Your immediate thought is that Robel may have been embroiled with some strange cult, so you make a mental note to look into this later. So let's see. Let's go talk to the priest now. I'm just going to stop doing the voices because it hurts the throat. I'll still speak in a deep voice when reading, but that's about it. You approach the priest, who is scribbling away in the register, peering over a pair of pince nez spectacles as he does so. You cough to attract his attention, and he looks up to meet your gaze. Good day, he says. What can I help you with? You tell him that you came to pay your last respects to the dead man, and the priest's gaze softens. Thank you for coming. It seems that Robel had few friends in the city, he says. Robel became a member of the congregation here almost a year ago. He helped in looking after the more wayward members. He claimed that he could sympathize with them. His own youth was spent adventuring in the Badlands, you know. Yet his zeal seems to have made him perhaps a few too many enemies. It must have been one of these who ended his life prematurely. It was definitely murder? You inquired pointedly. The old priest gives you a wan smile and nods tiredly. Silence descends as both of you are lost in thought. The priest reseats his spectacles further up his hawkish nose, his expression suddenly guarded. And you, young man, how did you know Robel in life? You were not expecting this. You were not expecting this question, and you feel as though you are being subtly accused. So we can either admit to the priest that we were his friend and fellow adventurer, or we will lie. You know what? You never lied to a priest. The priest's eyes light up as he leans forward eerily. So you are the friend he was always talking of, he exclaims gleefully. Why, he was always holding you up as an example for the younger members of the flock. I sometimes wondered if you were just a myth. He walks around the desk supporting the register and clasps your hands warmly. If you ever feel like speaking of your adventures, this chapel is always here. You'll be warmly received and have the undivided attention of the audience. I do love a good tale of adventurous deeds, he added conspiratorially. You tell him that you'll think about it, which appeases him. Then you steer the conversation back to Robel himself, asking the priest whether he knows how your friend died. He nods in understanding. It is clear to him that you intend to avenge your fallen comrade. Some months ago, Robel confided in me that he was concerned about the level of crime in the city. Oh, there has always been drunken brawls and theft, but the number of bodies turning up across the city worried him. I told him to leave well alone. The authorities should be dealing with such problems. But then a member of the flock washed up dead on the banks of the river. Last time I saw Robel was at the funeral. Although he didn't tell me in words, I knew he was going to go investigate. The old priest sighed. The weight of the years seemed heavy on his shoulders. I will not ask what you intend to do now. I'm sure my words would not sway you one way or another. I have the address where he was staying written down somewhere, if that would help you. You look around and see that both the tearful woman and the angry young man seem to be readying themselves to leave. But since we already spoke to both of them, let's get that address. The priest motions for you to follow him through a door behind the pulpit and into his private room. As you follow, you notice both of the other mourners take their leave and depart through the large double doors. The room is pleasantly appointed, though slightly dusty. Another large chalice of vivir stands against the northern wall, thankfully unlit, while beneath your feet a thick woolen carpet covers the cold gray stones. The priest picks up the decanter from the desk in the middle of the room and waves it at you. Politely you decline, and he treads over to a large wooden bookcase, crammed with books and papers ranging from ecclesiastical treatises to ledgers filled with births, marriages, and deaths of parishioners. Despite the somewhat chaotic arrangement of the papers, he manages to find what he is looking for, pulls it from the shelf. He mumbles to himself as he reads the words scribbled on the page. Then with a mighty "Aha!" he trots over to you, pointing along a certain line of words. "Here it is," he adds unnecessarily. "I asked Roble for his address in case I need to call on his help. He was staying at the Wrecker's Lantern Inn, not far from here. A bit of a rough area, mind you, but Roble seemed able to take care of himself. Till now." He lapses into silence. You decide to take your leave. Thanking him for the address, you move towards the doorway. "One last thing before you leave," he says quietly. "When you find whoever did this, make sure they can never do it again." Turning back to him, you nod slowly. That is most certainly your intention. The priest manages a sickly smile before reaching for the decanter and pouring himself a large drink. You leave him to his thoughts. No, even that's starting to hurt my voice. Okay, normal reading time. So you walk between the large double doors and blink in the warm sunshine. Yet inside, your heart feels numb, as though you lost part of yourself that can never be reclaimed. Citizens wander past to or from the market, absorbed in their humdrum daily lives. Some stand on the street chatting to friends, while others tend to mewling babes and children. They continue their lives, neither knowing nor caring that a good man is dead. You tightly clasp your sword hand into a fist. Whatever plans you had can wait. You must look into the death of your friend. Okay. So, we know that his body washed up on Riverside District. Has the eagle symbol, human eye on its chest, branded into him. He was investigating the Laughing Dog Brewery, and his residence was the Wrecker's Lantern Inn. So, yeah, we've been told where his body was washed up. We want to search for answers there. We can investigate the cryptic eagle symbol, or we can go to his last known address. But I'm going to put a bookmark right here. And let's go to his last known address. So you follow the directions westward in a rundown area of the city. The lanes are narrow and cramped, and the second stories of the building overhang the streets, encroaching into the space above claustrophobically. Rake-thin children play games in the alleyways, teasing each other mercilessly until fights break out. Parents look on at this violence, fearful of involving themselves lest it turn into their direction. From grimy windows and half-open doorways, eyes watch as you pass, unfriendly and malevolent. Malevolent, yeah. You quickly come to the Wrecker's Lantern Inn and rap stoutly on the front door. It abruptly swings open to reveal a bedraggled woman with wild hair and ample form. She is swathed in several layers of rags and looked at you with beady, bird-like eyes. "There's only 2 vacancies," she snaps at you. As politely as you can, you inform her that you are not here about a room. Rather, you are here regarding the death of a friend. Her already sour expression darkens. "I've enough to do without talking to a time-waster like yourself," spits. "That Roble, he owed me a week's rent, then went and got himself killed. I'll be starving on the streets for the like of him." You keep your opinions about the unlikelihood of her starving anytime soon to yourself, and ask whether you can see his room. Her eyes narrow, and she moves aside to allow you entry to a narrow corridor that leads through the back of the house. A door at the far end leads out to a small 4-sided courtyard, barely 5 yards square. Leading from the courtyard are several doors, each one leading to a rented room. The woman leads you over to the right and points to a door. "There you go," she snipes. "That was his room. You've seen it now." On the heavy door blocking entry to the room are a series of strange markings which you do not recognize. They seem to depict a stylized eagle with wings outstretched, the beak turned to the right-hand side. On its chest is emblazoned a human eye. This must be like the one that was found in Roble's chest. You ask the woman about the strange symbol. "Never seen it before yesterday," she opines. "People defacing my property. I'm struggling to make a living too," she grins wickedly. "Gang on the Butcher says the same thing was branded onto your dead friend's chest when they found him. Looks like he got himself a real bad trouble." Anxious to take your leave of the woman, you ask that she unlock the door. She pretends to play dumb. "But you say you want to see the room," he says in a slow voice, as if talking to an unruly child. "Here you've seen it. A week's rent I'm owed, and no one's getting in until I've been paid it." You are furious at her callous attitude, but aware that she is within her rights to demand money legally, if not morally. So do we grit our teeth and offer to pay? Otherwise, we could always leave and investigate where his body was found. Or we could investigate that symbol further elsewhere. You know what, since we're here, let's pay his rent. You inquire how much the landlady is owed. Grins wolfishly, showing her brown-stained teeth. 8 gold pistados, she cackles. That is a huge sum of money for this sort of establishment. You control your anger and count out 8 pistados from your money pouch and hand them over to her. Produces a key from a hidden pocket and unlocks the door before turning and walking back towards the house. "I think I'll have my mid-morning siesta," she calls back at you. "Make sure you're gone by the time I wake up." Seething with rage, you push open the door. It opens onto a flight of stairs leading up to the second story. At the top of these steps is a small, dingy room. It is largely unfurnished, save for a bed and a desk-cum dresser that has seen better days. Several items stand atop this battered wooden relic, though you recognize nothing from a distance. An open window at the back of the room overlooks whatever lies behind the holster. Let's see, window or the desk? Let's do the desk. As you move towards the desk, you see something move out of the corner of your eye. You rush to the desk and grab Robles' dagger in your hand, turning your eyes back to the room in the process. Everything is silent. You strain your sense of sight and hearing to the limit in an attempt to catch a sight of what you think you saw. Seconds pass and you relax, letting down your guard, assuming it was trick of the light. As you breathe a sigh of relief, you are suddenly accosted by a dark shape that leaps across the room. It swipes at your face, but you manage to deflect its claws with your arm. Despite having revealed itself, the shadowy creature that crouches just a few feet away is difficult to distinguish. It seems vaguely feline, yet it walks on two legs. You cannot quite tell, but it seems to be no more than half your height. It hisses menacingly and leaps at you once again. Well, I guess the only option here is that we must fight. All right. So we draw our weapon. We must fight. See, combat option. I want to do a fitness check. No, let's just attack it. Shadow moves to block the attack. Defend. You deal a crushing blow. Shadow is defeated. If you manage to overcome the invisible adversary. Okay. Your final blow knocks your shadowy opponent to the floor. It mews and hisses at you until it falls silent. Even in death, it is difficult to make out the shape of the creature. The body oozes of thin black blood onto the floorboards, forming pools of noxious ichor. As you catch your breath, you hear a noise from outside. Rushing over to the window, you catch sight of a figure dressed in green running away into the heart of the city. You quickly lose sight of him. Puzzled and annoyed in equal measure, cross to your friend's pack and open it. Inside, you find unwashed clothes and a number of trinkets, keepsakes from his adventures, no doubt. At the bottom of the pack is something of far greater worth to you, his journal. You are sure that he will have recorded in here details of whatever secret organization he was involved with. You stow this in your shirt and repack the rest of the items. Hopefully, the landlady won't be able to tell that you have taken anything. Shall we leave or explore more? Well, let's explore more. As you are poking around the room, the door suddenly crashes open. The sounds of huffing accompany stomping footfalls up the stairs. The landlady's head appears in the stairwell, and she fixes you with a cold glare. "Have a look," he says, she snaps. "You woke me up with all your glumphing around." She catches sight of the corpse of the shadow creature, surrounded by pools of its drying blood. "And what in the hell is that?" You try to explain that you were attacked by the creature. The landlady will not listen to reason. Her face is red with rage, and her shrinky voice hurts your ears. "I'll go to the guard," she exclaims. "I'll give 'em your description. They'll get ya." The only thing you can think of to placate her is to offer her money to cover the damages to the room. At that, she suddenly calms. sly expression flitting across her face. After some haggling, you agree to hand over a further 6 gold pistados by her silence. After you hand the money over, you leave immediately to avoid being stung any further. Struggling to keep your annoyance in check, you storm angrily from the hostelry in search of a quiet place to peruse Robles' journal. Several streets away from the run-down hostelry is a green public space known as the Old Wall Gardens. It is so called as the old city wall once ran straight through the park, and huge stone-like obelisks mark its route. The gardens are overgrown with grasses and wildflowers, and are regularly used for romantic trysts between secret lovers. Fortunately, the gardens are usually deserted during the daytime, save for a few mothers and their young children. It would be an ideal place to read through the journal of your friend. Not far from the main gate are a series of wooden benches. You sit down on the most shaded one, holding the diary out from where you had secreted it. You skip past the earliest entries, which date back to your adventures together in Los Halcones de la Muerte. More recently, you note that he had become enamored with a young woman who had reciprocated his affections. You feel sorry that his life has been cut short before he could fulfill his intention and marry her. More surprisingly is the revelation that he knew you were the savior of Orlandis. His writing, describing his pride in your accomplishments, of how pleased he was for you that you have become so feted and respected. He calls you the best and most worthy of all the Halcons. Or Halcyons. Halcons. I'm going to say Halcons. You can only feel guilty at his happiness for you. Roble had rarely crossed your mind in the past couple of years, determined as you were to make a name for yourself. You wonder why he did not meet with you. A simple letter could easily have alerted you to his presence in the city, and the reunion would surely have been a pleasant one. Yet, deep down, you know that Roble understood your desire for a clean break from your past. Roble's comments about your other adventuring companions are less polite, though perhaps not too far from the truth. He speaks derogatorily of the pretentious minstrel and the cute backstabber, while the real ire is reserved for the pig-headed strongman. Ever your most staunch and loyal friend, Roble sides with you against the others even years after the event that led to the breakup of your party. The healer, Amatista, leaving you for the warrior, Esplandian. It took time, for some time, you look, unseen, at the neat handwritten words of your friend, comforting you despite your melancholia, even from beyond the grave. When you find the strength to continue reading, you can discern a change of tone and urgency in his writing. Over the past few months, he had been seeing a symbol, the eagle with the outstretched wings, all over the city. It is as if all the ne'er-do-wells and thugs of the worst elements of Orlandrian society had been flocking to this totem. Violence, bloodshed, and murder have become normal across the city. You cannot but feel ashamed of how conceited you have become, for all this was news to you. Roble knew this symbol, though he is careful not to write down from where he recognized it. You do, however, find a name. Hanner, the guardsman who works at the Kothica to the west of the river Mendes. This sounds like a good lead to follow, so you stow the journal in your pack and head off towards the art gallery. That was it. And I think we're gonna we're definitely gonna end it here. It's a good place to stop. And let's see who's on that I can launch a raid at. Probably no one. No, no one there. Okay. All right. No, no one's on. Strange. But in that case, I am just gonna let you guys go. Tomorrow is Friday, so it will be Horus that we will be playing. Saturday, I'll pick another game for my stream list. We'll see how that goes. Actually, Saturday, I might pick Dex. And then, depending how that game goes, keep it for Wednesday. As our cyberpunk theme for that day continues. But for now, take care. Later.